All right, this is Rudy. It's January the 28th, 2015. This is part 3 where I try to finish reading Kent Hovind's statement on January 19th, 2007 before sentencing. I'm going to try to read pages 90 through 101. You guys need to realize that if I make a mistake, I take responsibility for that. It was not intentional. Refer to the actual court transcripts for, well, there's even doubt whether they've been tampered with, but I'm going to read you what has been passed along to me that they call the court transcript. Also, I read very fast. My intention is to get the words out there, not to be the perfect orator that we know Kent Hovind to be. Here we go, page 90. It was never my intent to violate any letters. It was my understanding that ministers and ministries had a special exemption or exception. I asked Michelle Heldemeyer 3 times to show me, and she never answered. What else should I have done? Evidence was presented that the staff were asked, do you prefer cash or checks? Since many are Bible college students from out of town or out of state, they don't have local banking agreements. They requested cash, so we did that to be a minister to them. There was no evidence that they were ever violating any law or willfully trying to injure anybody. Nobody was injured by this, and we certainly weren't trying to hide anything. Counts 13 through 57 and 96, we started drawing cash out to pay the people. It was about $3,000 a week. The records would show that slowly grew from $3,000 a week to $4,000 a week. As the ministry grew and the needs grew, we only withdrew enough up to meet the needs. It finally got up over 10,000. Pastor Mooneyhan said, and later Glenn Stoll said, don't go over 10,000 without specific permission from me. I said, why not? He said, it just causes trouble. I said, what kind of trouble? He said, don't worry about it. Just if you need to go over 10,000, call me. We'll do it. I said, okay. I'm sorry. Hold on. He said, we'll do it. Okay. I did not know what a CTR whatever the thing is. I didn't see one until the day of trial when this showed up on the screen. The ministry shows a great lack of structure in withdrawal. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 days apart. Sometimes it's 34 days apart. It would become 49 or 50. This is not structuring. There is no evidence that the cash was ever less than the ministry needed or that it ever went to some unlawful use. It never went to drugs or controlled substances. I was shocked and upset when the government alleged that our ministry property should be forfeited based on drug letters, and more shocked when you, Your Honor, signed the okay for that. And I'm sure that we've got a taped conversation where I said I think that's wrong. I did think that's wrong. There is no drugs. I've never taken drugs in my life. I'm in a room full of men every day, 24 hours a day. 90% of them are in there for drugs. I've never touched them once in my life. And that upset me that they would try to seize the church ministry that we worked so hard to build through all these years. They just want to come and seize it and use drugs laws as their excuse. I'm embarrassed that our government would do such a thing. Our ministry leaders were instructed clearly to notify them if it were to get more than 10,000. These were sacred funds. I felt and still feel to this day that Agent Snyder stole church money and applied it to a tax bill for Kent Hovind. I think that's wrong. My state of mind was that he didn't follow due process. I had a right to file suit. Count 58. That's my understanding. That's what I'm supposed to do. How on earth can that be unlawful? We tried to follow due process. I felt that they were not following due process, so my state of mind was frustration. What do I do? There is no evidence that anything in the suits I filed was false or frivolous. They were dismissed on procedural grounds because I'm not a lawyer, and I forgot to cross some T's and dot some I's. There is no evidence that I ever threatened anyone, and I never have. I've been married 34 and a half years to the same woman. I never hit her one time. I have thought about it a couple of times, but I never have. I'm not a violent man. I'm outspoken. I'm stubborn. I'm proud. I admit, but I'm not violent. I would never harm anyone. You heard on the tape. I said I'm going to take every lawful means. That's all I would do ever, Your Honor. That's all I would ever do, Your Honor. And it bothers me that you kept me locked up for 3 months away from my grandchildren when I'm not a threat to anybody. I'm not a flight risk. I don't understand that. What the IRS has done has terrorized our ministry staff. It has terrorized our life, but vengeance belongs to God. I'm commanded to pray for those that spitefully use you. I feel that the IRS has just spitefully used me over the years, and it continues. I pray for those that persecute me. I pray for each of you by name every day. I weep and cry in my jail cell for you. It was mentioned that I destroyed records. All we do is shred documents that pertain to credit card numbers for people in our ministry. Sometimes we burn them. I hope every ministry and business in America does that. I don't want credit card information to fall into someone else's hands. This is not unlawful to shred those documents. If they contain that information, we call the people missionaries, because that's what they are. All we do, many are here today, they will testify that's all we do, is to try to win souls. That's all we've ever done. Putting me in jail will not stop that. I've been evangelizing in jail. My staff keeps evangelizing outside of jail. Prison won't solve this problem. There is no evidence that either my wife or I have ever willfully violated any laws that I can see. I would like to go home and hold my new grandson. I would like to rock my other 4 grandchildren. I don't want to fight the IRS anymore. I mentioned on the tape that if I'm locked up, I intend to sue them for the rest of their life. I changed my mind. It doesn't do any good. Nobody is listening. Nobody on this planet that I have seen is brave enough to stand up to them. Wow. Wow. That's a powerful statement he just said. Let me read that again. Nobody on this planet that I have seen is brave enough to stand up to them. Senators, congressmen are afraid of them. This was back in 2007. Everyone fears the IRS. I don't want to fight them. Somebody else can slay that dragon. Whether I go to jail or not, it is my intention to not sue them, to not file complaints. I feel like when you wrestle with a skunk, you can't win. You can win, but it's not worth it. I stand at the mercy of this court. The jail chaplain seated in the corner asked me a few days ago, Dr. Hovind, have you repented? I said, brother, I wish I knew what to repent of. I still don't know what law I've broken. He said, you're in jail, aren't you? I said, you're right. The Bible is full of stories of people who went to jail and even were killed, yet had done nothing. Cain killed Abel. What had Abel done wrong? Joseph was in Egypt for 13 years in prison. He did nothing wrong. The book of Acts records 50 instances of people were beaten, jailed, threatened for preaching the gospel. There's nothing wrong. What was Job's sin? I am guilty of being proud and guilty of being frustrated and guilty of letting that show through my letters and correspondence and my attitude, and I'm sorry. Christ examined Jesus and said twice, I'm pretty sure that meant Peter. Christ examined Peter and said twice, I find no fault in him. I'm not sure if it's Peter, but I know that what they've written is not right. Yet the Bible said he delivered him to be crucified because he feared the people. When Paul appeared before Felix and King Agrippa 3 times, they said Paul has done nothing wrong or worthy of death or bonds. But these politicians left Paul in jail for 2 more years because they feared the people. When Paul appealed with Caesar, Felix said it's unreasonable to not specify what law he's broken. Acts 25. Your Honor, if my wife and I have deliberately and intentionally violated a law worthy of prison, please have the U.S. Attorney show me which one. I've shown you the statutes I was relying on. The indictment said in general, employers are required to withhold. I had shown her a year before the 3 statutes I was relying on said I am not an employer. I am not required to withhold. She never responded other than getting an in general. What law is that? I want to be a peacemaker, so we went to employee leasing. That resolves counts 1 through 12. We began using checks in 2003. Counts 13 through 57 are resolved. I still feel the IRS does not follow due process, and I have not filed a complaint or suit against them in over 2 years, so I think I'm reformed of that count also. There is no need for prison. Your Honor, we are godly people. We just want to bring people to the Lord, that's all. Again, I am not a tax protester and never was. I don't know who put that label on me. I wish they would take it off. If it's just money the IRS wants, there are thousands of people out there willing to pay huge amounts of money to have me out of jail, back out preaching. We could raise a huge amount of money if it's some kind of ransom they want. I don't know. They will pay for my release. I'm willing to make any necessary changes they want me to make just so I can go out and preach the gospel. That's God's calling on my plate. I can see several ways you can rule, Your Honor, that would be in favor of me. One, you can reverse your decision on the acquittal. I know judges rarely do that, but you could. And I know the sentencing guidelines are not mandatory. You don't have to do anything on that page. You could declare a mistrial for any number of reasons. You could simply not uphold the jury verdict. If you do send me to prison, would you please grant release pending appeal? We can certainly We certainly will appeal this case. I don't want to be sitting there waiting for appeal. I promise I won't go anywhere. And please, Your Honor, if my wife is sentenced to prison, would you please put that on mine? Our ministry needs me out there preaching so we can continue. I beg you, just let me go home. I would not flee. I would not be a fugitive for 30 years. I would rather spend 5 years in jail or whatever and get it over with and be back out preaching. I don't want to be a fugitive for the rest of my life. There are senators, representatives, and lawyers that support our ministry and love me. They would not tolerate me being a fugitive. They would hunt me down. I have no criminal record. This is the first time my wife and I have ever been defendants on anything. I have 2 traffic tickets. There was no prior warning. There were no attempts at resolution. They simply came and arrested me. The morning they came, my wife was sleeping. She had just gotten to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. Or 3 o'clock. 4 agents surrounded her bed, told her to get up, handcuffed her in her nightgown, refused to let her get dressed, put a robe on or go to the bathroom, took her to the squad car to haul her down here. That's her first experience ever with the law. Who in the right mind would want that to happen to their wife? I'm embarrassed to be an American sometimes when I see how some of them act. All prison will do will destroy a family. Destroy a ministry. I'll do whatever you want me to do, Your Honor. Imagine you're Kent Hovind. I'm sorry, I'm nearly done. Imagine you're me. 94 to 95, I sent letters to Agent Powell. She never answered. She shows up and steals the cars without due process. I wrote letters saying, what is going on? My friend paid the money to get them back. He said it's not worth fighting them. 2004, 96. I paid to have the professionals tell me, am I doing something wrong? They all said, no, you're not. You're doing everything fine. I paid for that. We're a church ministry. 2002 to 2004, I sent more letters to Agent Snyder, which he never answered. I begged him to please let me see what law I'm breaking. I never got one response. I asked him to verify his authority, which he's required to do, and I'm required to ask, according to Ryder versus United States. I even sent him all the research to make his job easier. Here's all the statutes. Which one applies? April 2004, they raided our ministry, seized thousands of dollars in sacred church funds, and gave it to a civil tax case. To the civil side on a bill they just created that day. That's not due process. The next day I prayed for Agent Snyder on the radio, and he says he feels threatened because I prayed for him. Please read the staff affidavits and see who was threatened that day. 2004, I filed complaints about the IRS not following due process. I filed a lawsuit, and it's dismissed on procedural grounds. When I wrote to the TIGTA and said, would you please send me a copy of your report? They said no. I filed for the report. They finally sent me the TIGTA report on Agent Snyder, and all of it was blacked out. I got 300 black pages. I still don't know what was in there. 2005, they convened a grand jury, but they refused to indict me on personal taxes. All of a sudden, bang, that was ministry taxes with no warning whatsoever. Our ministry has been demonized through the media. We've spent a fortune trying to fight the most powerful government on earth. I feel like the mouse. November 2nd, 2006, my attorney assures me that no defense is necessary because the government never proved their case. So we put on no defense. We were shocked within a few hours later. The jury found us guilty of breaking a law that they never saw and I have never seen. November 2nd to January 19th, I spent 2.5 months in a jail while my sweet little wife is relieved from playing the piano at the church where David McGinnis sits. Our ministry struggles to keep going, and my staff is asking me, Brother Hovind, what did we do wrong? My speaking schedule has all been canceled. Thousands of people will not hear the gospel. My 4 grandchildren wonder when Grandpa will be coming home. Grandpa is in jail for the first time in his life, alternating between winning souls and doing Bible studies and crying himself to sleep at night in a freezing cell. January 19th, today, I stand in court still wondering, what have I done? If I had known the IRS had a problem, we would have fixed it. I would have talked to them. We never knew. Any more Kleenex, Joe? The court, we're approaching an hour. The defendant, just 1 second, Your Honor. Pavlov did an experiment many, many years ago. He would ring the bell and feed the dog, ring the bell, feed the dog. Most people don't know what the experiment was really about. After the bell After the bell would ring, the dog would begin to get excited, salivate, supper is coming. Then Pavlov would ring the bell and beat the dog, and then ring the bell and feed the dog. Very erratically. He would go between beatings and feedings until actually when the bell would ring, the dog had no idea what was coming, and he would run to the corner and quiver in fear. I feel like that dog today. I do not know what the IRS wants. What do you want, Scott? Do you just need another piece of meat to grind? Am I the poster boy for this year? Just because I dared to ask you questions and challenge your authority, am I now doomed for persecution forever? Do you want to give me the IRS? Do you want me to give the IRS all the money and property that belong to the church for a tax bill for me and be happy about it? Do you want authority over the church that Congress says you can't have? Do you want me to thank you for raiding our ministry and terrorizing my wife? The court, Mr. Hovind, this is not an opportunity for you to launch personal attacks. The defendant, I'm sorry. I don't know, Your Honor, what the government wants. I don't know what the IRS wants. My grandchildren ask me, why is Grandpa in jail? What should I tell them? Do you want me to keep silent and cheerfully accept the prison sentence and not ask why? Should I just not grieve of the destruction of my family and my ministry that's taking place? Why do you want us in prison? Are we a threat? Who have we harmed? Do you want truth or like in the prison? They have an expression. Is it justice or just ice? I fear it's just ice sometimes. Does the court want to see remorse? I would love to be remorseful. I told the chaplain about repent. Please tell me what I'm supposed to repent of. I've shown you my heart today. God, what do you want? What do you give? Why did you give me such a close, loving family only to rip them away from me? Am I not supposed to have feelings? Didn't the government see as they investigated thousands of hours of our ministry? Can't they see that we're Christians? Can't they see we're dedicated to the Lord? All they are doing is looking through all this stuff, looking for something I said wrong. Don't they see anything we said right? I love you, Lord, and I don't see anything. Hold on. I lost my spot. Hold on, guys. Okay, I found my spot. Sorry, guys, I lost my spot there. Last page. I love you, Lord, and I trust you, and I always will, but I don't understand, and I need your protection right now. I just want to go home, and I'm tired. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, that was the end of Ken Hovind's statement. If there's any issues with meaning based on my inflections or my tone, I take responsibility. If there's any errors, I take responsibility, and we got to question the document I'm reading from anyway. But I want the words at least to get out there of what he said before his sentencing. I also plan to read his sentencing, and that's the end of Ken Hovind's statement before sentencing.